Afternoon, everyone. Brian here with the Barbell Spin. This afternoon, I had this set up to talk about the economics of a semifinal, and lo and behold, just an hour ago, CrossFit releases a statement on that they're opening up an RFP for semifinals. So before I get into the economics and really about what is going on with Africa and charging athletes to get into the spectator area. Let's just look at right now the RFP that CrossFit has put out there, looking for host cities for the North American and European semifinals for 2024, 25, and 26. So here it is. I have a link to it on the barbellspin.com. But yeah, let's take a look. First, hey, Dom and Gabe, Kenneth, thanks for joining. So this process itself is pretty common. They did this when they were looking for Madison. If you recall, back in 2016, they put out RFP. They were looking at different places like Jacksonville, Madison. I think Chattanooga was in the equation. So they're looking a year ahead, trying to find spots for the next 3 years, for 24, 25, and 26, like I mentioned. As you'll see here, right now they've put this RFP out. Host cities, they're looking for this. I think there's a website out there that kind of specializes in sports RFPs. So I'm sure that's out there too. So these host cities have until May 26th to kind of show that they have some interest. They have till June 30th together their full proposal. In that they're talk about the venue, some different information that CrossFit asks, as well as basically what the city will do for CrossFit for them to come to wherever they're going to go and host a semifinal competition. Um, One thing that is interesting here is you'll see that CrossFit's dates for semifinals next year are not set in stone. So they have a 4-week window beginning in May 6th is on Monday. That runs through June 3rd. So those are 4 weekends. I think May 12th is a Sunday, that very first one. So basically, they have options right now of 4 weekends. They're going to pick either the first 3 or the last 3, most likely depending on which venues they like, which dates they propose, would work best for a specific location. Sound is glitchy. All right. Hopefully it gets fixed here. All right. So yeah, I mean, we don't know. It could be even a week earlier than what we have right now. So um, you know, we'll be interested to see how that kind of plays out. Then they go through some history of what CrossFit is, CrossFit Games season, things that we all know, but maybe host cities don't. Um, and so they do have a schedule for these for the cities. You'll see here there's a minimum financial contribution of $50,000 that they're asking for a host city to pay CrossFit to host. Um, Preferred venue types are hockey, baseball venues, convention centers, um, and so those are the types of places that if you're in your area, that is working. Let's see. Um, goes through venue requirements, minimum of 4,000 seats, an additional 1,000 on a secondary floor, for athlete briefings, etc. Let's see what else do they have here. Kind of goes over again the CrossFit map, financial arrangements, things that they're looking for as part of a proposal. So any tax advantages, grants, things like that may benefit the CrossFit company in that host city. So again, this is CrossFit's looking for a lot coming from these host cities. It's not CrossFit doing anything for the city. The city is doing stuff for CrossFit in this situation, which is not uncommon. whole bunch of questions they're looking for. You can read those. There's a link to this on barbellspin.com. Again, it goes into a lot of details of everything that is uh, you know, needed to host an event. Um, Again, the usage, hotel rooms, and things like that. So it's kind of interesting that this came out today in light of the reason I wanted to be here this afternoon. So yesterday afternoon, I was messaged by an athlete competing in Africa. And this person said, look, Africa is charging us to get into the spectator area to see our fellow competitors or friends that are maybe in a local gym, also competing. Uh, we have to pay a ticket. Now it's discounted. It was like 50% of the ticket. But regardless, it was an additional cost that these athletes were going to incur. And so, I went to a post. I did ask a few athletes if this was the case at other semifinals. I'd never heard of it before. And what I was told is regional semifinals, never the issue. Obviously, the CrossFit Games with the limited space in the Coliseum, you know, those athletes couldn't get in there. Plus, generally, they're more busy at the games than at the semifinals. But Africa is the first time I have heard of this. Well, apparently, this kind of set off a firestorm amongst athletes who didn't realize this in Africa, and it kind of spread with athletes complaining, "Why are we the only ones getting charged for an additional spectator ticket?" And I was actually notified or contacted by the organization, the event organizers of the Rebel Renegade Games, and got some information following an email that was sent out to those athletes last night. Um, and so I'll kind of read that here to you guys. I'm not going to pull up the email itself, but um, essentially what they went and said to the athletes is that they were clarifying some concerns and issues that's popped up because of my post. And so I found some really interesting things here. First, we, the Rebel Renegade Games, do not receive any registration fees of the qualifying stages of an event from open, quarterfinals, or semifinals. So the $300 that's paid for the registration of a semifinal for the athletes, that goes to CrossFit. It does not go to Rebel Renegade Games. It does not go to Torian Pro. It doesn't go to the Asian semifinal organizers or Copus Bill Sir. That goes directly to CrossFit. Um, they're also the organizers are also responsible for generating their own revenue and covering their costs. And basically said that these guys are hosting this event for the love of the gaming community. And in talking to him a little bit further, they are doing this so that the African semifinal continues to exist. Their concern is if nobody stepped up in Africa, that they would have been sending the African athletes to Europe. Um, and so obviously that adds to flight costs and everything else for those athletes who may be close to the venue now. Now they're flying to Madrid or in this year, Berlin. Extremely expensive compared to what it is today. Um, Also learned more about the venue. The venue has 280 seats already built in, and the organizers are going to have to build an additional scaffold seating that hosts another 520 seats. So this entire venue is 800 seats total. Um, and they did put a post up. I'll share that with you guys here. Uh, you'll see they only have 150 seats left. And you'll see, I mean, this is a rendering, obviously, but they're putting in scaffolded seats. It's a very small venue. They only have 800. So, they have to cover everything. You're not getting the $300 that I think everybody would have expected is at least some type of revenue share with CrossFit. CrossFit keeps all of that. Um, so, you know, talking. So after I talked with the organizer uh, from Rebel Renegade Games, I actually reached out to some who have um, done the semifinals in previous years. I wanted to get a sense of, is this something new? Is this something that has kind of always happened? And in speaking with these people, this is common. This has always been the case. Um, CrossFit has always kept the athlete registration fee. Um, and so here's kind of where it stands. If you're a semifinal competition that's not owned by CrossFit, right, the North American or Europe regions, you're paying $25,000 to be a licensed event. I think that's still the case. At least it was in 21 and 22. Um, as I said, CrossFit keeps the athlete registration fees. CrossFit does do some sort of revenue split with their major partners like Noble, GoWad, and that sort. But I was told it was minimal at best. So CrossFit determines that split. It's a small portion. Really, the organizers can't really count on it because it really doesn't cover a whole lot. And so, as an event organizer, as those that are hosting this Rebel Renegade Games, they have a couple avenues for generating income: selling spectator tickets, vendor booth, vendor booth space, and then you know, like if you think about maybe like the Granite Games or things like that, other type of division. So if you had non-elite divisions in there, that was kept by the organization. Uh, I think when you look at what CrossFit is doing with its uh, the throwdown ticket for the fans to come on and compete on the floor, and it's an extra $10. I think CrossFit's doing that to generate additional income for themselves. Uh, Also, the North America East is doing the weightlifting state championship for Florida. My guess is that they're sharing some of the costs of the convention center with um, with that group. Um, I I don't know why it's cutting out. Hang on one second. All right, I'll just keep going. It connects better now. So Dominic, yeah, it would be really cool if CrossFit, we could see their finances. You know, what I was told is that it's really tough to break even as an organizer. Um, these semifinal competitions, it wasn't working from kind of what the sense that I got for both these independent organizations as well as CrossFit. And so I talked about what the events did make. Um, Another thing is you think about sponsorship. So these sponsors, if you're working as Africa, you cannot go and get sponsors that conflict with CrossFit's partnerships. So you can't go find a partnership with Reebok or Tier because it conflicts with Noble. You can't go and get say pliability because that conflicts with GoWad. So you're also limited in who you can actually go get sponsors. Now, here's the thing that CrossFit does do is they do provide some non-financial support. So they send 2 liaisons and 2 media personnel, whatever that's worth to you, to the event to help promote it. They do pay for the drug testing. They do pay for the prize purse, and then they do pay for the live broadcast, so it can be live streamed. Um, so, you think about this, and you know, where's the African semifinal going to make its money, right? Ticket sales, there's 800 total seats. If it was sold out the entire weekend, it's $48, say $50 per per seat for the entire weekend. 800 seats total. That's only $40,000. So you have to rent the venue. You have all these different costs, and then you only make $40,000. And if these athletes do take advantage of the discounted price, that cuts it down. And really, what they're saying in that email at the very end of it was that really, for them to get break even, they have to sell all 800 tickets at a higher price than what is currently being advertised. So I think they're really relying on the Rebel equipment manufacturer to kind of take a hit on this, maybe make some money up on the vendor village, but that's about it. I mean, this these guys are not making a whole lot of money, and I don't think CrossFit is helping them get there. Uh, it's it's a really, really tough situation. Um, so why aren't these sponsors stepping up? I mean, I, uh, obviously we don't know how CrossFit, you know, spends its money, how profitable the entire CrossFit Games season is. You have to imagine hosting the CrossFit Games in Madison is very expensive. The broadcast alone is ridiculous. I, I don't know. I mean, if there's not enough money out there, we've always heard that the games was a drag on the profitability of CrossFit. So if that's the case, or it's not bringing in that much money, helping out the other four semifinals isn't really a possibility. So, I really just want to jump on here and kind of clarify the post that I made yesterday, and that you know, I think it is interesting that Africa is the only one that is charging the athletes, but when you step back and look at what they're doing, right? th these guys have taken on all of the risk, right? They CrossFit hasn't. They know what CrossFit knows what the broadcast cost is gonna be. They know they're gonna make a certain amount of money when it comes to the athlete registration fees. The organizers don't know how many vendor booths they're gonna sell. They don't know how many tickets they're gonna sell. And when it comes to other sponsors, you have to be really creative in finding sponsors who might be willing to pay for it, who, you know, that don't conflict with the wide range of everything that CrossFit has already partnered with. So it's a really tough situation. Uh, I feel for the organizers. It's tough for the athletes because you're now adding on another cost. I know, you look at it and say, "Hey, it's just $25." But if you're traveling from a different part of South Africa, if you're Michelle Vasnet or Keelan Henry, and you're traveling further distance, obviously that's, you know, they made that decision to live somewhere else, but it is a cost to them. And now you're saying if you want to actually go watch something beyond your competition, you have to add an additional cost. It's tough. So I don't know what the right solution is, but uh, I don't think it's working out. Um, and it does pull into question what's the viability of this season structure. Um, so Sarah, Noble isn't sponsoring all semis. So Noble is sponsoring the CrossFit Games, but CrossFit is not subsidizing the four semifinals that are not hosted by CrossFit. So it's a yes and a no. They're CrossFit's relying on these four organizers to figure it out and use ticket sales and vendor village and anything else creative that can make enough money to break even. And really, in Africa, they're really worried that if they did not step up, if Rebel did not step up, the guys that are actually putting on and producing this event, that CrossFit wouldn't step in and make sure it was going to be there. And it may not be justified, but that's kind of where their feeling is. Um, and it would be really tough if you told the African region that they have to now go to Europe because they can't support a semifinal event on the continent. Um, seems like BS if they get Reebok or whoever, then no isn't helping. It is tough. Let's see what Halpin here has. Africa's sponsored or listed on Rebel's post about ticket sales. Clothing brands, two coffee vendors, ice baths, Assault Fitness, Heineken, and a fast food burger place. Was that on the most recent one, Mike? Oh, here it is. Yeah. Yeah. So what I did get forwarded a message about Steel Monkey clothing. Someone did go on and talk about this, and Steel Monkey Clothing was making shirts for the Renegade games, and what this post said, and this woman was talking about, is that they made all these, they went out of their own pocket to make these shirts for the competition, but they can't even put Steel Monkey Clothing's logo on the shirts because it wasn't approved by CrossFit. I mean, it's crazy. So, um, I I don't know, guys. It's a very tough thing if they still are charging these venues or these organizers to, um, pay $25,000 to be a licensed CrossFit event on top of taking all the risk. I mean, I get why they're doing it in Africa because they wanna keep it in Africa, but that's a tough thing to do, and take on the risk. I mean, you can go underwater pretty quickly and be in some financial distress. So, that's it, guys. Uh, if you can, and if you're in Africa, if you're in any of the regions, uh, make sure you go if you can to the semifinals. Buy the ticket. I guarantee makes the world for Africa, Asia, Latin America, Oceania. I think Touring Pro is probably doing all right, but again, if there's a ticket available, I highly, highly recommend going and buying a ticket and watching live, because it definitely helps these guys out, and from what I didn't know, I didn't realize that they weren't getting any financial assistance, beyond some minimal, revenue share with some of the sponsors. So, that's it. I wanted to clear the record on what's going on with the African athletes having to pay for a spectator ticket. But we're a month away, and hopefully we can now focus on the competition and the athletes and not some of the things that go on behind the scenes. Other than that, talk to you later.